Hey viewers, I recently picked up this Cannondale F7 mountain bike and it's got RST Gila Pro forks on here. My guess is they've never been overhauled. They work okay, but I think they could definitely benefit from being taken apart, cleaned, and re-lubed and put back together. One thing I've noticed is that the lockout does not work. If I turn it over, it's kind of stiff, it doesn't go over all the way, it doesn't lock the forks out. So I'm kind of curious as to the hardware that's inside the fork for the lockout, and I want to see if I can fix that. So it'll be an interesting project. I'm going to start off by removing the disc brake caliper from the fork, just kind of get this out of the way. And be careful not to lose any of the mounting hardware. And then I'll remove this little cable mount here on the forks here. It's just a little hex screw. Don't lose that. And the next thing I want to do is remove these bolts on the bottom of the forks, but the easiest way to do that is with the forks being compressed. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, the easiest way to do this is have a friend put their weight on the handlebars to compress the forks while you unscrew those bolts on the bottoms of the forks. But let's say you're working alone or have no friends. What you do is use a rope like this. Put this down through here like this, and then use your own weight. Put your weight down on the handlebars to compress the forks. Try to get them compressed as much as you can, and then tie the rope like this, and use the rope to hold the forks in a compressed position like that. Now I should be able to remove these two bolts under here. They're a 4mm hex socket here, and if you don't compress the forks, they have a habit of coming loose and then just spinning around as the stuff inside spins. But with the forks compressed, that kind of holds the stuff inside from spinning around, and then you can remove them. And so there's the two screws out. Now I'm guessing that if I untie this rope, I should be able to pull these lowers off like this and slide these right off like that. Yay! And there's a little bit of water in there. Okay, I'll go ahead and pull this little part off down here. And then I want to remove the left stack here, and it needs a special tool. RST actually makes the tool, but it's really hard to find. So I made my own version out of an old socket. I have a video on how I made this, and I'll include a link to that in the description of this video. And so this will fit right on here like this. And then I'll just unscrew this little adjuster cap at the top here. And then I can push up from the bottom and push this stuff up out of here and kind of pull it out. And so there's like the spring and all this stuff in there. And now I need to see how to get the other side out here. The adjuster cap is held on by a little tiny Phillips screw. So I'm going to try to remove that. And pull this adjuster cap off like that and see what's under there. There's some little tiny parts in there, so be careful not to lose those. Okay, so for the little locking little lever there, it looks like there's like a little ratcheting mechanism, which is basically a couple little ball bearings here and a couple little springs underneath of those. Do not lose these little tiny parts. Well, interesting enough, if I take the little lock, little lever here and put it on there, I can rotate this all the way around nice and smoothly, and it doesn't get hung up there at all. So I don't know, maybe it was like the little balls and spring ratcheting mechanism, it was just caught up and was not allowing it to turn. Maybe if I lube it up with like a little bit of a sill glide or something, or maybe it's that the lowers are not on here so that the little part here is not under compression. I don't know, but that's just kind of interesting. Well, it's got like a wrench fitting type thing on the socket fitting on the top here. It looks like it's going to fit a 24mm socket. So I'm going to see if I can unscrew this. And it is loosening. There you go, it's like a whole sort of cartridge thingy here. Interesting. Next I want to push this up out through the top. So I have a little bit of coat hanger here and just kind of push it up and it'll come out through the top, and so I can get all this all cleaned up here. Like that. Okay, it looks like the lockout does work on here. If I turn this all the way to where it kind of stops there, it locks. Then if I turn it a little bit this way, it frees up, and if I turn it back, then it locks. So it could be that this dial was just maybe in the wrong position to where it couldn't turn all the way over into the locking position. I don't know, but it does lock. Well, here's all the parts from the inside, so I just need to go ahead and clean them up and get ready to reinstall them. And here's all the parts cleaned up. I cleaned them up with like a degreaser and a scrub brush, and they're looking pretty good now. And then I can clean off the uppers here with like a little bit of a degreaser, just kind of spray the degreaser on there and kind of clean off any grease and dirt off of there. And then there's a little bit of very light surface rust here on the chrome, and I'll come back and clean that up a little bit. So now I need to clean the insides of the tubes here. So I'm going to spray some degreaser down inside the tubes here. And then I'm going to take a rag here and kind of have it rolled up and try to work it down inside the tube. Then I have like just something long that'll fit down in there. I have a PCV pipe here and use this to kind of push this down. And on this side, the rag will come all the way out through the bottom like that. And then on this side, I'll go ahead and spray the degreaser down inside the tube like this. And then work the rag down inside here. Push it all the way down to the bottom. Now on this side, it won't go down through the bottom because the bottom is a smaller diameter opening on the bottom. Then I'll need something to push it back up. So I have like a long screwdriver here. I'll push it up. I want to try to be careful not to scratch up the insides of the tube here. And I'll push it up like this. And I got most of the way up. And I really need something longer that I can use to push up there, but I'll use some like little forceps, little things here to kind of grab it down from the top and kind of grab it and pull it back out through the top like that. So the insides of these should be pretty clean. And then I want to clean this little bit of surface rust off the chrome here. So I just have like a little bit of a chrome polish, chrome cleaner stuff. So I'll just go ahead and rub this on here and get this all cleaned up. Now you want to clean out the inside of the lowers, so just take a little bit of degreaser and kind of spray it down inside there. And then take a little bit of rag on the end of like a coat hanger, it's just kind of twist around there. And then I can push it down in here and kind of scrub it in around down in there. And then kind of pull it back out and do this on the other side. And just kind of clean out the inside of the tubes like this. And they actually look pretty good down there. Now you want to lube these things up, and you want to use a lubricant, a grease that is specifically designed for shocks. I use like Slickoleum, aka Slick Honey, and this is like really good stuff. It's sort of sticky, slippery stuff. It gets on there and just stays on there. And so you want to kind of take a little bit of the grease and run it down to the inside of the tops here. Just kind of get a good coating of grease up in here on both sides. And you can even run it down a little bit inside there. Because you want these forks to be able to slide nice and smoothly. So get a nice coating of grease in there. Okay, so now I want to start installing the stacks into the uppers here. I'm going to start off with this cartridge part here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put like some grease onto here. Put it onto this part down here, and then put some on the grease, put some up here. So this stuff slides nice and smoothly in there. And then I'll drop it down into the upper here and start screwing this in by hand. Then use the wrench to tighten it in, but be careful not to over tighten it. This is plastic and it's real easy to strip those threads out. So just gonna get it kind of tight. Then on the other side, there was this little part here, this little I don't know, plunger or something. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and run some grease down around here and also just up and down this little slide like this. And then I'm gonna drop this down inside here. And it might not come out through the bottom, so you might need to kind of play with it a little bit to kind of get it to fall out. Kind of come all the way through the bottom, just like this. And then we got to put these two little parts back on here. And this little part here, this is going to go on first. Slide this up with the wide part at the top. And then this part here, see there's like a little part here that's sort of like countersunk on the one side, but it's flat on the other. The little countersunk side goes up. Like hit, and so just kind of push that up like that. Now I want to go ahead and rub like a little bit of grease all around these little parts down here. Nice little coating of grease. And then I want to install the spring stack, and I want to make sure that there's a nice good layer of grease on here, all over the spring and on this little plastic sleeve like this. And just get it all over because we want the spring to be able to slide freely inside the tube there. And then I can go ahead and slide this down in like that. And then using my homemade RST little tool here, I'll start screwing this in. Be careful not to cross thread it. And again, tighten it, but be careful about over tightening because you don't want to strip out those plastic threads in there. And then one last thing before I put the lowers on, I'll put like just a thin coating of the grease on the uppers, just all around here. And so now I want to slide the uppers on, and I want to make sure that I have the correct side facing forward. So the little fork bridge here should be in the front. And so I'll slide these up and slide them onto the uppers. And get them all the way up. Like that. And then I have the screws here, and I'm going to put like a little bit of thread locker blue on here. And then screw these up into there. And tighten that down. And same thing with the other side, get a little bit of thread locker blue on there. And get this tightened up in there. And you might need to press the fork just a little bit. I'm just kind of squeezing it by hand here. Otherwise it might just spin around a little bit. And so then I can go ahead and get this one tightened like that. And so there you go. Now I want to install the little adjustment lockout lever, and what I need to do is find the lockout position. So what I'm going to do is set this on here, turn this counterclockwise. I didn't hit the end there, so I'm going to turn it back and put this back on here, and then turn this counterclockwise, and right there is the end where I can't turn it any farther. So that's the lockout position. And so when I install the lever here, I want to have it so that the lockout position with the levers facing forward. So that way when I want to take it off of lockout, I can turn it this way, and then that'll free up the fork. And if I want to lock out, it'll be facing straight forward. So now I want to take the lever back off, and I need to install the little springs. And so I'll drop a spring into one of the little holes here, and then drop another spring into a hole on the opposite side. And then I'm going to set one of the little ball bearings right on top of the spring like this, and set a ball bearing on top of the other spring. Be careful not to lose them. Just like that. And then I'll adjust the, or mount the little lockout lever. Again, I'm going to have it so that in the lockout position, so that the lever is facing straight forward. And then I'll install the little screw to tighten this down. And then I can test it. So it's kind of clicking around in those different positions. So there's lockout position, there's freed up, and lockout, and freed up. So, okay, so there we go. Now reinstall the caliper here with the spacers exactly how they were when they came off. But I'm not going to tighten it completely down yet. So now I need to go through the whole process of adjusting this caliper as if it were being mounted for the first time. So it'll vary depending on the particular caliper that you're using. On this one, I need to adjust this little wheel here on the inside so that the pad comes up, touches the rotor while the rotor is centered in the slot in the caliper. Then compress down the brake lever, and that will clamp the caliper down on the rotor so it'll be centered. And so at this point I can tighten these mounting bolts, which will then hold it centered there. And then I want to torque them down to about 70 to 90 inch-pounds. And then back this little pad on the inside out, just maybe a click or two. And reattach this little cable clamp right here. And done. The forks are working nice and smoothly now. The lockout works. And so that's how to overhaul RST Gila Pro forks. I have a ton of other work to do on this bike, but I got that done. Anyway, hope you found this video useful or interesting. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, click the subscribe button. You see new videos that come out, and I'm always coming out with new videos. I'm over on Facebook, RJ the Bike Guy. Go over there, like that page. I post a ton of stuff over there. And I have a webpage, rjthebikeguy.com. Go over there, sign up for the page, and I have other stuff over there as well. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.